Before we dive in, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Mahtab Siddique, and I'm a senior solutions architect here at Katalon. I've been in the software engineering field for around 20 years now, and throughout this journey, I've had the privilege of working with some of the biggest names in the software industry: Nokia, Cast, Niveo, HCL, and now Katalon. Across all these roles, my passion has always been the same: helping teams build smarter, scalable solutions to solve real, everyday challenges in software development and testing. Over the years, I've seen firsthand how testing has evolved from manual execution to traditional automation and now to AI powered intelligence. And that's exactly what brings me here today to talk about how Katalon TrueTest is transforming the way we approach test automation, combining the power of AI with the precision of human validation. So, with that quick background, let's begin our session and see how TrueTest makes automation faster, smarter, and truly effortless. Hey everyone, and welcome. I'm really excited to take you through something quite special today: Katalon TrueTest, one of the most intelligent and time-saving solutions in the automation testing world. But before we jump into the actual demo, let's take a quick step back and talk about what's really happening out there in the automation testing industry. You see, today's testing teams face a pretty tough challenge. Applications are changing faster than ever. New features, new releases, new UI updates almost every week. And with that comes the pressure to automate everything quickly and maintain it flawlessly. We spend hours, sometimes days, writing test scripts, fixing broken locators, updating data, managing test cases. And when the next release hits, we start all over again. Sounds familiar, right? That's exactly where the pain lies. Traditional automation frameworks are powerful, but still they rely heavily on human effort. And even with all the automation in place, validation, coverage, and maintenance still eat up a lot of time. Now, if you look around, AI is everywhere. From healthcare to finance, from e-commerce to education, every industry is embracing artificial intelligence. It's helping people work smarter, not harder. But here's the thing: even with AI, validation still matters. Because in testing, it's not just about automating, it's about trusting that your application really works. So AI alone can't replace human intelligence. And that's something we at Katalon deeply understand. We believe in combining the best of both worlds: AI plus human touch. Our philosophy is simple: let AI handle the heavy lifting, the crawling, the generation, the analysis, and let testers bring in their judgment, creativity, and validation. Together, this forms a truly smart testing process. Now, talking a bit about Katalon itself, for those of you who might be new to it, Katalon is a comprehensive end-to-end test automation platform trusted by thousands of teams across the world, including some of the biggest enterprise brands. It enables testing across web, mobile, API, and desktop, all in one unified ecosystem. From test creation to execution, analytics, CI/CD integration, and reporting, everything is designed to make automation simpler and smarter. But the real magic lies in how Katalon has evolved with AI. We've introduced capabilities like self-healing locators, AI-powered test generation, and predictive analytics in TestOps, all aimed at reducing manual effort and improving overall testing efficiency. And one of the most exciting innovations in that journey is what we'll explore today: Katalon TrueTest. All right, before we jump into TrueTest itself, let's take a step back and understand why we created it in the first place. Because every great solution, starts with a very real problem. And in the world of automation testing, there are a few challenges that nearly every QA team, every automation architect, and every test manager can relate to. Let's walk through some of the most common ones. First, automation lag. Now, if we're being honest, in most organizations, automation is always a couple of sprints behind manual testing. You finish building a new feature, the manual testers verify it, maybe a few bugs are fixed, and the release goes live. And only after that, the automation team gets to work on scripting it. So by the time automation is ready, the feature is already in production, sometimes 2 or 3 sprints later. This delay means automation never truly keeps up with the development speed. And as we move into continuous delivery, that lag becomes a real bottleneck. For example, Let's say your team just built a new employee onboarding flow in your HR application. Manual testers finish validating it, log a few bugs, and it goes live. But the automation team won't start scripting those test cases until next sprint. By then, the UI might already have changed. New fields added, workflows modified, and suddenly those scripts need rework even before they run. So automation always feels like it's chasing the product instead of keeping pace. And that delay means you're always a few steps behind in test coverage. Now, the second challenge, resource constraints. Most QA teams have only a handful of automation engineers, right? And these few engineers are expected to automate everything from smoke tests to regression suites, APIs, mobile apps, and web flows. Meanwhile, manual testers who deeply understand the application often lack the coding skills to contribute to automation. So, what happens? The automation backlog keeps growing, and valuable knowledge from manual testing never gets translated into automation. It's like having half the team's insights locked away simply because the tools or skills don't align. Next, we have the maintenance nightmare. And oh, this one hurts the most. Every time the application UI changes, maybe a button moves, a label updates, or a workflow gets redesigned, the automated tests break. Automation engineers then spend hours, sometimes days, just updating locators, adjusting scripts, and fixing test data. It's repetitive, it's time consuming, and honestly, it's demotivating. Instead of focusing on creating new automation or improving coverage, teams end up trapped in maintenance loops. And when your automation engineers spend 70% of their time maintaining scripts, innovation takes a backseat. And then comes one of the biggest pain points, defect escape. Despite all the effort, critical bugs still made their way into production. Why? Because the automated test cases often don't reflect how users actually interact with the application. Maybe the real users follow a slightly different path or use a feature in an unexpected way. And that path was never automated. So even though the test suite says all green, users encounter errors in production. This gap between how the app is tested and how it's really used is what causes the most business risk. And it's exactly where TrueTest steps in. So now that we've looked at the challenges, let's talk about the solution. What exactly is Katalon TrueTest? Think of TrueTest as an AI powered bridge between manual testing, automation, and real world user behavior. It's not just another test recorder or automation tool. TrueTest is built to truly understand how your application is being used, whether by testers or by real end users, and then generate smart, reliable automated tests from those interactions. Let's break it down a bit. All right, so let's begin by understanding what Katalon TrueTest really is. If I were to put it simply, TrueTest is like a smart assistant that observes how your application is actually being used, both by testers in QA and by real users in production, and then automatically builds meaningful executable test cases from those interactions. Let's say, for example, you have a web-based HR application. During manual testing, a tester logs in, searches for an employee, updates a job title, and logs out. While this entire activity is happening, TrueTest quietly sits in the background, observing every click, every text input, every navigation, and every validation step. Once the tester finishes, TrueTest has already captured the full context: the pages visited, the locators used, the data entered, and the flow taken. It then automatically converts that real testing activity into a structured test case, ready to run, ready to repeat, and ready to maintain. But it doesn't stop there. Even in production, TrueTest can capture how real end users interact with your app. Maybe a manager creates multiple employee records in bulk, or a user often navigates back and forth between leave requests and attendance reports. By learning from these patterns, TrueTest builds a library of real world scenarios that truly represent how your application is used, not just how it's supposed to be tested. That's the beauty of it. It brings AI into your testing workflow, ensuring your test cases are automatically created, intelligently maintained, and always aligned with what really matters: your users' actual journeys. Now, one of the most exciting capabilities of TrueTest is how it accelerates automation directly from manual testing. Traditionally, there's always a gap between manual testing and automation, right? A tester manually executes a test case, records results, and then later an automation engineer writes scripts to replicate that scenario. This handoff often takes days or even weeks. But with TrueTest, that entire delay disappears. As a tester is performing manual testing, clicking through screens, entering data, verifying results, TrueTest captures all of those actions in real time. Once the session ends, it automatically generates a fully executable automation script, complete with locators, actions, and assertions. For example, imagine a tester validating an employee onboarding workflow, entering personal details, job details, and uploading a document. Normally, this would take a separate effort to automate. But with TrueTest, the tester just performs their manual test as usual, and at the end of it, automation is already done. No scripting, no re-recording, no waiting. So what used to be a two-step process, manual testing first, automation later, now becomes one smooth, unified workflow. You're literally shifting automation left, building automation while testing happens, not after. And the best part, your manual testers, even without programming skills, can now directly contribute to automation, democratizing test creation across your entire QA team. Now this one's a big relief for anyone who's ever managed large test suites. Maintenance. Every automation engineer knows that as soon as the application UI changes, half the test suite starts failing. Maybe a developer renames a button, changes the order of elements, or moves a field from one section to another. And suddenly, your perfectly working scripts begin to break. We've all seen that frustrating moment when you run your regression suite and instead of validating new functionality, you end up fixing hundreds of broken locators. That's where TrueTest changes the game. Its AI engine continuously learns from your application's evolution. When something changes, a field name, a new selector, or a modified layout, TrueTest automatically updates the corresponding test objects and mappings. For example, suppose your HRM application changes the field employee name to full name or moves the submit button to the top of the page. TrueTest instantly detects the change and updates the locator behind the scenes, keeping your tests green and stable. So instead of manually re-identifying elements or rewriting test steps, your tests self-heal, keeping pace with your application. No more spending weekends maintaining scripts. TrueTest transforms what used to be test maintenance into test intelligence. Your team focuses on innovation, not firefighting. And finally, let's talk about one of the most strategic benefits of TrueTest, its ability to identify and close the gap between QA and production. You see, even the best QA teams often face a hidden problem. They test what they think is important, but users behave differently in real life. For example, in QA, you might test a standard login, dashboard, and employee management flow. But in production, real users might heavily use report exports, time tracking, or search filters that QA rarely tests. This mismatch leads to critical test coverage gaps, where key business flows remain untested. And that's often where defects hide. TrueTest helps fix that. By analyzing the real user journeys from production, it highlights which parts of your application are actively used and which aren't adequately tested in QA. For instance, if production analytics show that 40% of users frequently download payslips, but QA has no automated test for that flow, TrueTest will flag it and even generate a test case for it automatically. That's powerful, because now your automation coverage isn't based on assumptions. It's based on real usage data. And that's how TrueTest helps teams deliver more reliable applications with fewer escape defects and higher business confidence. All right. Now that we've understood what TrueTest is and the problems it solves, let's look at where it truly shines, the real world use cases where teams immediately start seeing the difference. Sometimes the best way to understand technology is to imagine how it fits into our daily QA challenges. So let's explore 4 major scenarios where TrueTest delivers tremendous value. Let's start with something that happens in almost every team. Manual testing that never translates into automation. Even today, manual testers do a huge amount of work, exploring new builds, validating business flows, logging defects, and verifying fixes. But all that valuable knowledge usually stays in spreadsheets or test management tools. With TrueTest, that changes. TrueTest can observe manual testing sessions and transform them into insights. Not just scripts, but patterns of how humans really test. So imagine a scenario. your team just onboarded a new release of the employee portal. Your testers go through onboarding, leave management, and payroll validations manually. TrueTest quietly records how those flows were tested, what paths were explored, where testers spent time, what validations were performed most often. Now, instead of recreating those same flows manually for automation, you can select and prioritize the most critical real test journeys to automate. It's not just about converting clicks to code, it's about capturing testing intelligence from human behavior. So TrueTest doesn't replace manual testing, it amplifies it, bridging the gap between human exploration and automated validation. Now, the second use case is for teams dealing with multiple frameworks and fragmented tools, something almost every enterprise struggles with. You've probably seen this. One project runs Selenium scripts, another uses Cypress, mobile automation happens in Appium, and reporting is managed manually. The result? Lots of effort, but no unified visibility. TrueTest helps as a migration accelerator. When you enable the TrueTest agent during your legacy automation runs, say Selenium or TestNG, it intelligently analyzes those executions and reconstructs them into Katalon compatible assets, test cases, objects, and test data models. So instead of rewriting hundreds of scripts, you can gradually consolidate everything inside Katalon Studio, leveraging its AI self-healing, visual object management, and TestOps analytics. For example, one of our enterprise customers had nearly 1,200 Selenium test scripts across 4 different repositories. With TrueTest, they migrated 80% of those tests into Katalon within just a few weeks, saving months of manual effort and gaining a centralized dashboard for analytics. So you see, this isn't just a migration tool. It's an accelerator for standardization and modernization. The third use case is where TrueTest really brings in the AI magic. Continuous learning from production. You see, most QA teams test based on assumptions, business priorities, requirements, and sometimes gut feeling. But users in production often behave very differently. With TrueTest, you can enable non-intrusive session observation in production environments. For example, in a banking application, users may frequently check transaction history, download statements, or simulate EMI calculations. Actions that testers rarely automate because they are considered non-critical. But when TrueTest starts analyzing those real user journeys, it highlights patterns you might have missed, like which paths are most used, which fields are most error prone, and even where users drop off. This allows QA leads to adjust automation priorities intelligently, generating or updating regression suites based on actual usage data, not just assumptions. So instead of waiting for post-release incidents, your testing strategy becomes proactive, powered by real-world insights. So if we summarize what TrueTest really does across all these use cases, it's essentially learning, generating, and adapting. One, it learns from user and tester interactions, both in QA and production. Two, it generates intelligent tests and artifacts that represent real-world usage. Three, it adapts continuously, ensuring your automation remains accurate as the application evolves. Four, and most importantly, it bridges the divide between manual and automation, QA and production, human testing, and AI-powered intelligence. In short, TrueTest brings your entire testing ecosystem into one continuous learning loop, where every user action becomes an opportunity to test smarter. All right, now let's dive into the most exciting part, the end-to-end demo of Katalon TrueTest. In this section, I'll take you through everything step by step, right from configuring our application in TestOps to generating AI-driven test cases automatically. By the end of this demo, you'll see exactly how TrueTest transforms manual interactions into intelligent executable tests. So let's get started. Here we are inside the Katalon TestOps platform. This is Katalon's orchestration hub. You can think of TestOps as the central brain where execution, analytics, reporting, and now TrueTest all come together. Whenever you work with TrueTest, your primary interaction will be through TestOps. This is where you will configure your applications, environments, and see the generated results. Okay, let's move to the configuration part. The very first thing we need is an AUT instance. That's short for application under test. To create it, let's head to the admin section. From the left-hand navigation panel, under the system category, choose configurations. and then click on Application under Test. Now here we'll see a list of existing AUTs. Let's click on the Create AUT button to add a new one. Alright, now let's fill in the basic details of our application. Its name, application type, and a short description. Once done, click on Create. Now, I've already created one for this demo. So instead of creating it again, let's just edit the existing AUT and update its configurations. To do that, click on the edit icon next to your AUT entry. Now, on this configuration page, scroll down a bit and look for the checkbox labeled Enable TrueTest. Make sure that's checked. This is what connects your application instance with the TrueTest engine. Once you've checked it, click Save. Alright, now TrueTest is enabled for this application. Next, we need to configure environments. This is important because TrueTest needs to know which environments to monitor and capture data from. So let's click the edit icon again. Now we'll add two environments, one for test execution and one for data tracking. Let's quickly understand the difference. The test execution environment is used to track your navigation endpoints, basically the URLs or routes your application uses while being tested. The data tracking environment, on the other hand, captures all the relevant DOM data, the structure, elements, and interactions happening within your application. Let's start by creating the test execution environment. Click on the Add Environment button and fill in the necessary details, the environment name, base URL, and description. Then, from the TrueTest Setup section, select Test Execution Environment. If your application has a login page, make sure to select Others from the login method dropdown. Now notice this small code section below, uncomment lines 2 to 5. This step creates a placeholder in your generated test cases where you can later implement your custom login logic. Once done, click Save. Now let's add the second one, the data tracking environment. Click on Add Environment again, fill in the required fields, and this time check the box Data Tracking Environment under the TrueTest setup. Then click on Save. Simple as that. Now we have configured both environments successfully. Next, let's move to the installation method section. You'll notice two options here, and we'll go with the JavaScript code snippet method. Click to expand it and then copy the provided snippet. Now this code needs to be placed inside your web application, specifically within the section of your index.html file. Think of this snippet a bit like Google Analytics. It quietly tracks user activity and traffic, allowing TrueTest to monitor how users interact with your application in real time. Once you've pasted it, just click Save to finalize the setup. Alright, now let's take a quick look at the application we've configured for TrueTest. This is a live application under test, and I've already added the JavaScript code snippet we just discussed. You can see it right here inside the application's head section, exactly where it needs to be. This confirms that the snippet is properly installed and ready to start tracking user interactions as soon as we begin our testing sessions. Alright, now that the environments are configured and the installation code is set, let's move to Git integration. Under the integration section, you can link your Git repository. This is where all the test cases generated by TrueTest will be stored. It's a neat setup. Every test case that TrueTest generates automatically syncs here. So you have version control, collaboration, and traceability all in one place. Now that our AUT instance is configured, we need to allocate a TrueTest license. Go to the license management section in TestOps, find your TrueTest license, and assign it to this AUT. And once that's done, congratulations. You're now ready to start using TrueTest. Once you have performed enough manual testing activities, we can now generate a user journey map. This is one of the most insightful features in TrueTest. To do that, let's go back to TestOps, and from the left navigation, select Journey Maps under the Tests section. Click on the Generate New User Journey Map button. Now, here you can choose the date range of the captured sessions you want to analyze. Maybe the last 7 days, the last 10 days, or even a custom date range. Once selected, click on Generate. After you click Generate, it will take a couple of minutes to analyze all the captured interactions and create a user journey map. Once it's ready, click on the eye icon to view it. And here it is, your complete journey map, showing all the flows and actions performed within your application. Let's take a closer look at this. This journey map visualizes how users or testers navigated through the application. Every page, every transition, every repeated path. It's not just a static report. It's a dynamic visual representation of your real testing or usage behavior. Each branch here represents a possible user flow discovered by TrueTest. Now, when you click on any of these flows, you can see the detailed sequence of steps captured under that journey. Each of these flows can be validated or directly converted into automated test cases. Let's pick one. Let's say the employee creation flow. When I open it, I can see all the individual actions: navigation, field entries, button clicks, validations. After reviewing it, I can simply click generate and TrueTest will automatically create an executable test case for this flow. All right. Now let's quickly look at how we can validate all the test flows that TrueTest has discovered and generated. Sometimes, before creating actual test cases, you might want to review all the captured flows, just to double check what's included, what's missing, or to share the data with your QA team for review. To make that easy, TrueTest gives you a simple option to download all test flows as a CSV file. All you need to do is click on this download icon right here. The moment you click it, TrueTest automatically exports all the detected user flows into a single CSV file. This file includes key details for each flow, like the page sequence, actions performed, and validation steps captured during execution. Once the download is complete, you can open the CSV file in Excel or Google Sheets. Here you'll see a complete list of all your test flows, neatly organized in rows and columns. Each entry includes the test case name, description, detailed test steps, navigation paths, and even the flow priority assigned by TrueTest. This structured view makes it really easy to understand what's been captured and how each flow fits into your testing strategy. You can use this CSV to validate all the captured flows, cross-check them against your existing manual test cases, or even share it with your teammates for review and prioritization. It's a simple yet powerful way to maintain complete visibility and alignment across your QA team. This simple CSV export is incredibly handy. It gives you full transparency into what TrueTest has captured before you move into automation generation. So, if you ever want to audit, review, or plan your automation backlog, this file gives you a clear, structured view of every test flow in one place. It's quick, it's clean, and it helps ensure your automation coverage is always accurate and traceable. All right, now that we've seen how TrueTest can generate user journeys and test cases, let's move on to another powerful capability, the gap analysis feature. You see, even with solid automation coverage, there's often a hidden gap between what's tested in QA and what's actually being used in production. And that's exactly what TrueTest's gap analysis helps uncover. It compares your testing activity from QA with real usage data from production, identifying which flows are missing or under-tested. So let's see how that works in action. In order to perform a proper gap analysis, you need to have at least two environments configured, one for QA and one for production. The QA environment represents the tests and flows that your team has already executed and automated. And the production environment represents the real world user data, the actual interactions that TrueTest has captured from your live application. For this demo, I've already created a sample setup with two environments, one labeled QA and another production. So all the configurations are ready. Let's now perform the analysis. To start the gap analysis, click on the Analyze Coverage Gap button inside the TrueTest dashboard. Now, from this drop-down list, select your QA environment as the first one, and then choose your production environment as the second. Once both environments are selected, click on the Analyze button. Now take a look at this visual. It's the result of our coverage analysis. Here, the orange lines represent the flows or paths that exist in your production environment, but were never executed or tested in QA. In other words, these orange flows are your testing blind spots, user journeys that real customers are following, but your QA tests haven't covered yet. For example, you might notice an employee timesheet submission flow highlighted in orange, meaning this is a frequently used path in production, but it isn't part of your current QA automation suite. This visualization gives you instant clarity. Instead of digging through reports or guessing where the gaps might be, TrueTest brings those insights right to you, visually, intuitively, and precisely. It's like having a live map of your testing landscape, showing exactly which areas are covered and which still need attention. Now, to incorporate these missing flows into your automation suite, TrueTest makes it incredibly simple. Just click on the Generate Test Cases link right next to the uncovered paths. What this does is automatically create new test cases for those exact production flows, effectively closing the gap between QA and real-world usage. Once generated, those new test cases will appear in your connected Git repository, ready to be enhanced, reviewed, or executed in Katalon Studio. And that's it. With just a few clicks, you've aligned your automation coverage with how users truly interact with your application. All right. Now that we've seen how TrueTest automatically generates and stores test cases in our connected Git repository, let's move one step further. We'll now clone the TrueTest automation project from GitHub and open it inside Katalon Studio, so you can see exactly how the project structure looks and what TrueTest has generated behind the scenes. To begin, let's clone the Git repository for our TrueTest project directly to our local machine. Once cloning is complete, simply open Katalon Studio and from the main dashboard, choose Open Project, then browse to the clone folder and open it. And here we go. This is our TrueTest generated automation project inside Katalon Studio. As you can see, this is a fully structured Katalon project, just like any other standard project you create manually. All the familiar folders are here: test cases, object repository, profiles, test suites, and data files. Everything neatly organized and automatically generated by TrueTest. Each test case corresponds to a real user flow that was captured earlier during our manual or production testing sessions. And the best part is, you can work with this project just like any normal Katalon project. You can add data-driven testing, insert additional custom logic or assertions, create new keywords, or even integrate it into your CI/CD pipelines using Katalon Runtime Engine. So essentially, TrueTest doesn't just stop at generating test cases. It gives you a complete, ready-to-use Katalon automation project that you can extend, enhance, and scale just the way you want. All right, that brings us to the end of our end-to-end demonstration of Katalon TrueTest. Let's take a quick moment to recap everything we walked through today. We started by understanding the real challenges in the automation testing world, from the constant lag between manual and automated testing to the heavy maintenance burden, limited resources, and the gaps that often exist between QA and production. Then we explored how Katalon TrueTest addresses all of these challenges through AI-powered intelligence, bringing automation, analytics, and real-world insights together in one unified platform. We saw how easy it is to configure your application under test in Katalon TestOps, enable TrueTest and set up both test execution and data tracking environments, integrate your Git repository for centralized test storage and collaboration, and add the lightweight JavaScript snippet, similar to Google Analytics, to start tracking real-time user interactions. Then we performed manual testing in our Orange HRM application, and TrueTest automatically captured all those interactions in the background. We generated a user journey map, a visual representation of all real testing flows, and then selected specific flows to generate automated test cases instantly. We validated those flows through the CSV export feature, which provides a clear overview of every captured path, step, and priority. Next, we explored the gap analysis, one of TrueTest's most powerful features, identifying which production flows weren't yet covered in QA. We saw how those orange lines visually represented the missing coverage, and how with just one click, we could generate new test cases to close those gaps automatically. In essence, what we've seen today is how TrueTest transforms the way testing is done, making it intelligent, adaptive, and effortless. Instead of spending time writing, maintaining, and guessing test cases, you now have an AI assistant that learns from your users, generates automation, keeps it updated, and ensures nothing important slips through. It's automation that truly understands your application, from human interactions to production insights. So whether you're looking to accelerate automation, reduce maintenance, or improve overall coverage, Katalon TrueTest helps you achieve it, all within a single integrated platform. And with that, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join me for this walkthrough of Katalon TrueTest. If you'd like to learn more, discuss specific use cases, or explore a dedicated proof of concept for your organization, please feel free to reach out to me directly at mahtab.siddique@katalon.com. Once again, thank you so much for joining, and I hope to see you soon in the next Katalon session. Thank you, and as always, happy testing.